Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. It's been a very slow week for MMA news, so I'm going to talk about a rumored fight that could potentially happen between Dober and Paddy Pimblett. There have been a few Instagram posts, tweets, things of that nature. Dober has actually replied to one of them in a little bit of a cryptic way. And while I know that this fight is nowhere near official, and nor has it even been reported on by any major MMA media outlet, it's still a fun topic to talk about, and there's nothing really else to talk about. So we're going to talk about it. But before we do, please like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm going to thank you in advance for your subscription. So thank you very much. And don't be the kind of guy that doesn't do the thing that he's already been thanked for. So let's get into it. This fight, dude, if the UFC makes this fight, I will be so happy, because I did not think that they would give Paddy Pimblett a step up in competition after his performance against Jared Gordon. I stand by that he lost that fight, like, hands down. I don't think that there's any argument for Paddy Pimblett winning it. I've seen people try and make that argument, but it just ain't flying for me. I mean, I think it was pretty clear. And, you know, props to Paddy Pimblett if this fight is actually as far along as I hope it is, because this is a big step up in competition. And after a performance like he had against Jared Gordon, I would probably be like, hey, can I fight? I don't know, like that guy who's not ranked, who doesn't flatline dudes like Bobby Green and Terrence McKinney. And I know Terrence McKinney doesn't have the best of chins, or it would appear that way, but I just, man, if he accepts this fight, good on him. But it's probably going to be the end of any hopes he has of being a top flight lightweight in the UFC. After the Jared Gordon fight, I said that anybody in the top 15 beats Paddy Pimblett, and I didn't think that he would ever make it there. I wasn't like a lot of people where I was super high on his abilities. He was a fun guy to watch, I guess, kinda. Honestly, man, I found him to be kinda cringe. I think that when you've got an accent like that, I don't know if any of you play role-playing games, but when you play role-playing games, let's use Elden Ring as an example. You pick a class for what kind of character you're going to create, and based on which class you pick, certain stats are higher or lower, right? So if you pick like the samurai class or the warrior class, your dexterity or strength might be higher. If you're picking a magic class, intelligence, faith, all this, whatever. When you have an accent like that, your like funny stat is immediately raised up. And we see this with almost everyone. There's a few guys who've got the accents that are actually genuinely funny on a regular basis. Like Darren Till can make me laugh. That guy's got a good sense of humor. And then he's got the funny accent to go along with it, so it makes him even funnier. Conor McGregor's got some good one-liners, but if we're being honest, dude, there's like 5 that just get recycled that people like to throw out there all the time. And a lot of it is that he's Irish, so when he says the word fuck, it sounds like fook, and that's about why, that's, you know what I mean? Things like that. So Paddy Pimblett started with a few extra funny stats, and I don't think he put much into it as he leveled up, because if you look at what he actually says, and if you were to take the accent away, and there was an American dude calling Ilia Topuria, dyslexic, Ilia Topuria, my bad. If some dude with an American accent was calling him a sausage, I really don't think anybody would have laughed at that. That is I was watching that press conference. I was like, really? That's all you got? Also, Ilia Topuria would fuck you up, like, badly. So, but that's not what we're talking about. Paddy Pimblett has one way to win this fight, and one way only, and that is to get this fight to the ground and try for a submission. And I know that Paddy Pimblett has good grappling. That being said, I'm not as high on his grappling as a lot of others are. I don't think he is anything that Drew Dober has not seen before. Yes, he has good back attacks. Yes, he's got some slick maneuvers that are a little unorthodox when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Like, he's got some tricks up his sleeves, but I don't think he's going to have any more tricks up his sleeve, whatever, than any of the guys that have submitted Drew Dober as of late. And honestly, as of late I'm being real loose with that term. If we take a look at his last 4 losses, one doesn't age very well, and that's Brad Riddell. Okay? But the thing is that if you want to give Brad Riddell a chance of beating you, what you do is you have a fight of the night with him, which typically is like a kickboxing match, right? And Brad Riddell, as many of you may know, was a professional kickboxer before his transition to MMA. So while there have been quite a few guys that have beaten Brad Riddell lately, I can understand how a guy like Drew Dober that likes to stand and trade could lose a decision to Brad Riddell. This one, that loss, completely irrelevant to this fight because Paddy Pimblett's striking is fucking toddler-like compared to Brad Riddell. So before that, we've got a loss to Islam Makhachev via arm triangle. Fair enough. Okay. Current lightweight champ who was submitting everybody up until Alexander Volkanovski. No shame in that. Before that, 4 years ago. Okay. This is why I said I'm being loose with recent. When I say recently, is recent losses. 4 years ago, or almost 4 years ago, he loses almost 4 years ago exactly to Beneil Dariush by a triangle armbar. Okay, and then again we have to go back another few years, all the way to 2016, which is 7 years ago, when he fought Oliver Aubin Mercier, who is not in the UFC anymore. And obviously wasn't a top flight lightweight in the UFC. He was pretty damn good though, and he went on to go win the entire tournament in PFL. So I don't think there's really any shame in that loss either. And also Mercier's stuff was grappling, so these are all like specialists that he's losing to in the grappling department. Which I understand Paddy Pimblett is kind of a specialist in that regard because his striking is so fucking horrible. I don't think he is on the level of a Beneil Dariush. And if you, like... That was 7 years ago, his loss to Aubin Mercier. I don't think... to think he hasn't improved in that time is insane, right? And then after that, his only 2 sub-losses are to Islam and Beneil, which it's like, those are both understandable. Beneil Dariush, in my opinion, is the only actual lightweight, right? Not Alexander Volkanovski, the only lightweight that I could potentially see beating Islam. Maybe there's a few other guys that I'm not thinking of right now that aren't in the top 5 that are on the come up, but in terms of who's like in immediate talks for a shot against Islam Makhachev, I could see Beneil Dariush getting it done. Beneil Dariush made Tony Ferguson look like a goddamn amateur on the mat. Tore his knee to shreds, okay? Tony Ferguson is not a bad grappler. You might get that impression if you watched the Charles Oliveira and the fight I just mentioned, dude. Beneil Dariush. Okay, Jesus, dude, Jesus. But also, I think that we know Islam has way better takedown abilities and wrestling than Paddy Pimblett, and we know that, well, in my opinion, Beneil Dariush does as well, defensively and offensively when it comes to takedowns. I think his takedowns are a little bit underrated, and I think that his defensive wrestling is underrated. He did not allow Mateus Gamrot to take him down really at all. He may have gotten taken down once or twice, but I think he got up real quick. So, and Beneil Dariush is like a multiple world champion in jiu-jitsu in different tournaments and the like. He's not a slouch, okay? And while Paddy Pimblett has good grappling, I don't think he is on the level of either of these men. The worst case scenario for Paddy Pimblett is the worst case Ontario. Worst case Ontario for Paddy Pimblett is He cannot get the fight to the ground, which I don't think he's going to be able to. And I could see Drew Dober hurting him with a knee up the middle on a panic shot from Paddy Pimblett after he's been hurt with a left hook. Because I think what kept Paddy Pimblett from attempting to take the fight to the ground with Jared Gordon was the fact that when he was getting hit with those left hooks, they were clean, they were nice, they were landing on the chin, they weren't doing a whole lot, right? Jared Gordon doesn't have a whole lot of power, it would seem. And if you look at him, he looks like a very small lightweight compared to a guy like Drew Dober. I'm surprised Drew Dober's not fighting Jalen Turner, to be honest. I thought he was going to jump on that. But maybe that actually, the fact that they gave that to Mateo Scamrock kind of maybe sort of points to that they're going in the direction of Paddy Pimblett versus Drew Dober. Because I would have imagined that if they offered Drew Dober that fight, he would have taken it. Because he's Drew Dober, dude. He's a Giga Chad, okay? And I think that what the UFC's thinking is that this, for them, is like the best case scenario, because if they are all wrong about Paddy Pimblett, and that was just a horrible, horrible performance against Jared Gordon, and it's not reflective of his abilities, then this is a chance for him to get into the top 15. Then we can start looking at bigger fights for him, which will sell pay-per-views and all that shit, right? Worst case scenario is that Drew Dober fucking flatlines him, which Drew Dober would then take a bunch of hype from Paddy Pimblett going into, well, he's already ranked number 14, so he'd be coming off of a great win from a super famous guy, and then they could put some bigger fights together for Drew Dober. Plus, Drew Dober is one of the most like marketable faces in all of men's MMA. The guy has the best jawline I have ever seen. I don't swing that way, okay? But it is pretty objective that Drew Dober is a good-looking fella. And he can talk well. He's a nice dude. And if he were to knock out Paddy Pimblett, his face would be fucking everywhere. And then they could get him bigger fights. And also, if Paddy Pimblett gets knocked out, I don't think it really affects his star ability. That's one thing that Americans are they're a little more tough on their guys, right? UK, Paddy Pimblett would have to like murder somebody for the UK to stop liking him, right? Like he'll always have a huge fan base regardless of where he is in the rankings. He could be ranked like 50th in the lightweight division. I don't even know how many lightweights there are, but let's just say he's way down there. He could still blow the roof off the place if they were to do a UK card or whatever. I personally think that Jared Gordon was Paddy Pimblett's ceiling. My camera's not focusing. Fantastic. There we go. I think that Jared Gordon was his ceiling, and I don't think that we're going to see any major improvements. Despite him being young biologically in his age, right? He's 28 years old, and Drew Dober's 34. Drew Dober is not young. They look like they could be the same age, but Drew Dober he's up there. I don't think Paddy Pimblett will be able to improve his striking a meaningful amount to the point where he can hang with guys like Drew Dober, who is just in the top 15, right? Like, just. And Drew Dober gives guys a lot of chances, man. His fight with Alex Hernandez was fucking crazy. His fight with Terrence McKinney was crazy. This guy gives dudes chances. I don't see Paddy Pimblett having a chance, though, because even if he can land on Drew Dober, the guy doesn't hit that hard, man. And Drew Dober's got a chin on him. There's no way. I can't see this fight going in Paddy Pimblett's favor. I have to be honest, man. And I'm not even just trying to be a Paddy hater, because I absolutely hated the way he acted after his Jared Gordon fight. I think he's kind of mellowed out since then on the whole situation. And I've seen him now act like that was a horrible performance by me and I still got all this shit, right? But at the night of, my guy was acting like he just put on a dominant performance that nobody could have possibly scored against him. So even backtracking on that's a little like, Jesus, pal, like, get it together. Like, I saw a clip from Sean O'Malley, and believe me, I think Sean O'Malley is a little cringe when it comes to his trash talking, his fucking outfits, his hair, a lot of his tattoos I don't like, you know. I think that his attitude and his persona is more or less for Zoomers, which is fine. I'm not a Zoomer, so maybe if I was a little younger, I would appreciate it. But with that being said, I love his fighting. I love watching him fight. He's fun to watch fight, and I think that that's like I don't think anybody could argue that he's not fun to watch fight. I saw him talking about the Paddy fight, and he said, and this was at the time, obviously, or like the following days, he said, I had a bunch of people over at my house. He goes, I don't think a single one of us scored it for Paddy Pimblett. And then there was a kind of cool moment of self-awareness from Sean O'Malley where he says, and man, the first thing I thought was, if people thought this watching my fight with Petr Yan, and he was like visibly distraught by the idea that that was how people viewed his fight with Petr Yan, which I think, in my opinion, that fight can't even be called a robbery next to sitting next to Jared Gordon and Paddy Pimblett. Like, yeah, that might be something people disagree with, but if you're comparing those two fights, one is a close decision, the other one is straight up robbery. Like, Jared Gordon got fucked, man. Jared Gordon got fucked. That would have been huge for his career. And Douglas Crosby, the piece of shit, went, nah. Well, all three judges did. I think Douglas Crosby gave it 30-27 for Paddy, though, which is fucking mental. That guy should be fired. This guy should have been fired years ago. But yeah, I could see Drew Dober hurting him with a knee up the middle. Paddy shooting for a panic shot after he gets hit with a left hook from Drew Dober, not Jared Gordon. Because, like I was saying, that's the only reason why I think Paddy was confident enough to stand and strike with Jared Gordon. Because while he's landing clean hooks, they're not really rocking Paddy. They're not, you know what I mean? They don't have much on him. Drew Dober's got a fuckload on his punches, though. He flatlined Bobby Green. Like, flatlined him, dude. I mean, Jesus Christ, he flatlined him. He fucked Terrence McKinney up when Terrence McKinney had a whole lot of hype on him. And then kind of set the blueprint for fucking Bonfim or whatever his name was to go and knee him up the middle, too. I could see Drew Dober getting a KO here. And I think that that's like the most likely outcome, if I'm being honest. I think that if we were giving it percents out of like 100, I think it's like a 50% chance that Drew Dober gets a KO. I think there's like a 25% chance that Paddy Pimblett submits him. Maybe even smaller than that. And then the rest is fucking MMA. Who knows what could happen? Somebody could break their fucking leg in half, and you know what I mean? It's MMA. I really hope they put this fight together, man, because I want to see Paddy Pimblett get knocked out cold. I gotta be honest, dude. I don't understand how none of his coaches, because he's been at a relatively high level of MMA for quite a while now. Like, he wasn't in the UFC or anything, right? But he was at Cage Warriors, and he was doing shit over there and whatever. I don't understand how none of his coaches, or maybe they have and he just doesn't listen, have tried to fix his striking. He's never going to be like an Edson Barbosa or, you know what I mean, or Rafael Fiziev or whoever, because he didn't start young enough, or at least it seems that way. That's what he looks like. He looks like the kind of guy who just picked up striking. The way he throws his punches, the way his defense is fucking horrible. Chin straight up in the air, all of it. And when you start that late, there's no catching up. Like, you're never going to catch up. Unless your name's Alexander Volkanovski, apparently. But you're never going to catch up to guys like Israel Adesanya or someone like that who have been doing it their whole lives. But at least try to fix his fucking defense, dude. Don't stick your chin in the air with your hands down and back up. You can't do that. And maybe you can get away with that against a guy like Jared Gordon, but you can't get away with that against a guy like Drew Dober. Like, how have they not fixed that shit, my guy? Figure it out. I'm not even trying to be an asshole, man. He kind of throws punches like a woman. The way, not the power behind it, not any, but the technique. It's like Juliana Pena shit, dude. Come on, man. Fix it. I don't think he's ever going to get that much better when it comes to straight. Like, he's long in his career, but... So I'd reckon Drew Dober gets a KO here. That's my early prediction. it's a fun fight to think about. I hope it happens. Let me know how you guys think that fight would go in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you very much in advance for doing so. I will see y'all later.